So the professionals have packed up their gear, the plastic containment sheets are down, and the loud equipment is finally gone. Your home is supposedly officially mold-free. But for a lot of us, there's still that little voice in the back of our head, right? That nagging question that can kind of keep you up at night.
And that's the big one, isn't it? After all the time, the money, the sheer stress of it all, you just need to know for sure, for your family's health and for your own peace of mind, is the job really, truly done? And let me just say, that concern is 100% valid. Mold feels like this sneaky, invisible threat. So of course you're going to worry about what you can't see. So today, we're going to break it all down. We're going to walk through exactly what to look for so you can answer that question with confidence.
Okay, first things first, we have to get on the same page about what safe actually means after a mold job. Because, and this is super important, the goal is not to turn your home into a sterile, hospital-grade clean room. That's a huge misconception.
This all comes down to a concept called normal fungal ecology. It sounds a little technical, but it's actually pretty simple. Look, mold spores are literally everywhere. They're a natural part of the environment. A successful remediation doesn't magically erase every single spore. Instead, it just gets the spore levels inside your house back to the normal, boring, healthy levels you'd find in the fresh air right outside your front door.
So here's the crucial difference. Think of harmless background spores as tourists just passing through. They're not causing any trouble. But active mold growths, well, that's the enemy. That's when those tourist spores find some moisture, decide to settle down, and start a massive family. They form colonies and start pumping out tons of new spores and other nasty stuff. Remediation is all about evicting them.
So just remember this. Success isn't about getting to zero spores, because that's impossible. It's about eliminating the active, growing colonies and getting your home's air back into a healthy, natural balance.
Right. So how can you know for sure if your project actually hit that goal? You don't have to guess. There are clear things to look for, so let's build a quick checklist.
Let's start with the big red flags. If you can still smell that damp, musty odor, or if you see any visible signs of mold anywhere, that's a major problem. But just as important is how they did the work. If they never actually fixed the leak that caused the mold, or if they didn't use proper plastic containment barriers and air scrubbers, they could have just spread the problem all over your house. Now, on the flip side, these are the signs of victory. The air smells clean, there's no visible growth, and you know for a fact that the water problem is solved. But the real gold standard, the most important item on this list, is that top one. For true, undeniable peace of mind, this is non-negotiable. You want an inspector who is completely independent, not connected to the company that did the cleanup, to come in and take air and surface samples. When their lab report comes back showing your indoor spore counts are normal compared to the outside, that's when you can finally, truly breathe a sigh of relief. All right, so you've got the all clear, the test passed, the job was a success. Now what? Well, now it's your turn to do a final victory lab to reclaim and secure your space for good. Think of this as the final detailing. Even with a perfect job, a few of those stray spores can settle as dust. So you'll want to vacuum everything with a certified HEPA filter. That's key because it traps the tiny spores instead of just blowing them back out into the air. After that, damp wipe all your hard surfaces, toss your bedding and curtains in a hot water wash, and definitely pop in a fresh filter for your furnace or AC. Now for the really tough question. What about all your stuff? It can be a hard call, I know, but the general rule is pretty simple. Hard, non-porous things like glass or metal can usually be cleaned just fine. But for those really porous items that were in the thick of it, I'm talking about mattresses, pillows, that particle board bookshelf, it's often impossible to get all the microscopic mold out. In those cases, as much as it hurts, replacing them is the safest bet. So, the remediation is done. Your final cleanup is complete. Your mission now changes. It's all about prevention. How do you make sure this never, ever happens again? This is your magic number. The single most powerful factor in preventing mold is controlling moisture. And that means keeping the relative humidity inside your house below 50%. You can get a cheap little device called a hydrometer to track it. Seriously, this one number is your best defense. And keeping that humidity down is all about building simple, proactive habits. Actually use the exhaust fan in the bathroom. Fix that tiny leak under the sink the day you see it. Keep your gutters clean so rainwater flows away from the house. Every now and then, just take a peek under your sinks. This isn't about being paranoid.
It's about being smart.
And this really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. Mold isn't the root problem. It's just a symptom. The real villain is and always will be water. Control the water and you control the mold. It really is that simple.
And it's so important to remember that safe can mean different things to different people. If you have young kids, elderly folks, or anyone with respiratory issues or a compromised immune system at home, their threshold is just lower. For them, even those normal background spore levels might cause a reaction. So in those cases, you want to be extra vigilant. Maybe run a good air purifier and just stay on top of your cleaning. At the end of the day, going through a mold problem teaches you a pretty valuable lesson. A healthy home isn't about one big, heroic fix. It's a long-term commitment. It's about seeing your home not just as a structure, but as a living environment, an ecosystem that you have to actively care for and protect.